Welcome to Pro Wrestling Hot Takes with you, the Drama Club, and the Drama King. Our first Pro Wrestling Hot Take is from Alicia. Many of you might know Alicia Warrior Princess, right there. One of our Drama Club members, OG. Alicia writes in to the Hot Takes message board. She says, sure, I would be happy to take part in this. My take on wrestling is that many companies like AEW and Impact Wrestling have given their superstars a chance to express and be creative on how they want their characters to be, and I don't see WWE doing just that. I feel that WWE hasn't done anything to make that happen. I feel that in order for us to keep watching their programming, that they need to start listening to their superstars and fans instead of brushing them off. I am talking about the management and creative departments in the social media. So this is Alicia. She is Endo Survivor 282 on Instagram and Twitter and Twitch. You guys might know her as Alicia Warrior Princess right here from the Drama Club. We've seen this, we've seen this very much before. This is a very common thread for a lot of people that WWE is not listening to their fans and also not letting their superstars. Here, this comes down to that argument of creative freedom. It's this one's generally speaking, I think can be generally accepted. I think they do tightly control their product much more and their superstars much more. I can speak from experience. They have much more. That isn't to say a lot of people think that WWE is like this super, like you can't have any say on your character at all, or your president, like you have zero. We will just put this thing on you that you don't want. And it's not that cut and dry. But I will say this, like they were very welcome and very open to like the Drama King character. Let me okay, you can try it. But I will say this, unless it is their idea or they have some part of it, especially the upper management folks, including Vince McMahon himself, it's the classic thing you've always heard with a lot of people, like with reverse psychology and things like that. If you can make it seem like it was their idea, even when it's your idea, then it works better, right? Because somebody hears somebody else's idea and it just feels like it's somebody else's idea, they don't want to do it. But if you can make it feel like, oh, you helped me come up with this, or this can be our idea, or whatever. So they let talent try things a lot, to their credit, especially on house shows and things like that. That said, unless the boss man or somebody high up is on board, they do have a hard time giving it the spotlight or giving it a real go on TV or something like that. That much is true. Moving right along, hot take number 2. He was early in the chat today. Crocabilly. He's got a hot take. He had a couple hot takes for us. We're going to sparse those out. Here's hot take number 1. Croc says to the hot takes message board. Hot take number 1. WWE contracts are not as bad as a lot of people think. Now, let me be clear. There are obviously issues at hand, and as a fan, it is in my best interest that all the talent is treated well and are happy. That being said, WWE over time has built a very solid foundation and business model. For starters, as a fan, and the public learns about, for starters, as the fan and the public learns more about the contracts, we run into discussions about third-party entities. We get into terms like independent contractor. People often forget, as you're well aware, that the talent are the ones who sign the contracts. It is their privy and right to use whatever means at their disposal to have the contract looked at and examined, as well as negotiate any terms they find unfitting. If they don't like the terms, they don't have to sign the contract, basically. If someone gets a job at McDonald's, they can't not wear the uniform and be expected to keep their job. It's part of the agreement you make by accepting the employment. I'm not saying everything is fair, but choice is available. I don't have socials. He doesn't really do social media, but he's Crocabilly here in the chat, here in the Drama Club. So he said he's willing to chat or whatever, so that's their username. So here's my take. I will agree with some of what you said. I will vehemently disagree with portions of it, though. WWE over time has, let's take this piece by piece. Let's just go. Over time has built a solid foundation and business model. In terms of their revenue and their liability, yes, they have. Whether that's good or not remains to be seen. Obviously, they're doing very well financially. The business model is good for WWE. it can be good for some of the talent and in some ways. But it's also very not beneficial for talent in other ways. As the fans and the public learn more about the contracts, we run a discussion about third-party entities and get into terms like independent contractor. Yes, it's a very important point. People often forget that we are the ones who signed this. So I'm going to take an issue with this. You're correct. There's this idea that you can always say no. Of course that's true. Of course that's true. So while that's technically true, I will argue it's still some of the terms in the contract are kind of ridiculous. The reason we argue over the independent contractor certification, though, here's the thing: I don't mind signing an independent contractor signing a contract as an independent contractor. But if you're going to classify me as that, you need to treat me as that. And WWE does not treat their talent as independent contractors. The responsibilities expected of them, the terms that are included in that contract go far beyond what is expected of an independent contractor in any other business or situation. They basically say you're an independent contractor, we're going to pay you as such and classify you as such, but you can't work anywhere else. You have to get everything you do, publicly speaking, approved by us. We own all of this stuff that has to do with you. So it's like they want it both ways. They want the exclusivity of someone under a completely exclusive, almost like employment style contract. And even more so, it's even more kind of controlling than an employment contract. But they want to classify you, not have to pay your bills, not have to pay your insurance, not have to take care of you retirement-wise, but to have all the expectations of you as a fully controlled, locked-in talent with none of those benefits. The flip side of this is, I will say, they compensate very well. Even developmental contracts nowadays are way better than when I first started. They pay you in cash, essentially. They don't pay your taxes. They don't do anything out of it. You have to take care of all of that yourself, but they pay you well. So that's the other side. And they do take care of things, of course, like in the ring. And they do try to provide services. But the independent contractor thing is a very important thing. And given what their contract is, and I've had the contract looked at by multiple lawyers, they all think it's ridiculous. So while you can say no, that's the other thing is too. And now there are more options. There's still not a ton to provide a full-time living. It's kind of like, yeah, well, who's gonna argue? You have no leverage. And that's the other thing I will disagree with you, especially unless you are a very, 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 very high level, very sought after, and scouted talent. To have it looked at and negotiate any terms you find unfitting, you have no power. You have no power in that situation. Even I've talked to some of the guys who were kind of like top independent names when we were hiring them for NXT. And even they didn't get to change a whole lot in their contract. They did not have a lot of power. So I disagree with how simple it is. Number one, I do strongly disagree with the independent contracting clause. And the ability to negotiate is vastly overstated in your hot take here, I think, as someone who's been there. Dresden Nova will be the next hot take on the hot take message board. Dresden Nova, he's there both on Twitch, in the Discord, all over social media. He is ready. He is ready to fight you over his hot take as he cracks knuckles. AEW fans need to shut the up and stop bitching about Vince McMahon every time AEW does something good. There's a damn reason that Vince McMahon should have been trending right after All Out, other than wrestling fans. I'm not sure if you meant to say there is no damn reason that Vince should have been trending right after All Out, other than wrestling fans can't help themselves but to complain about anything they watch, even if they're watching. What they're watching has absolutely all to do with the thing they're complaining about. And yes, this can even go for AEW, the company, too. Cody smashing Triple H's throne with a sledgehammer? Dog. Just be a better wrestling show. You don't see Avengers movies dunking on Justice League, so shut up about the competition and just be better than them. He welcomes your angry tweets and was ready to fight you. So, this is something I've actually talked about before as well. I generally agree with this one. This was kind of a a WCW trope too. And while I think it gets people kind of excited and like invigorated, both from the competition side to like, yeah, let's take some pot shots. Let's stir up some controversy, right? Bischoff, controversy creates cash. Let's throw some shots out on TV. You know, whether they're blatant or whether they're subtle, things like that. And I get it. It does get people, especially, I think even in the internet age, it gives you something to tweet about. Oh, what they did. It's the schoolyard fight, right? It's the schoolyard. The kids saying about, oh shit, look what he said over there. But I do agree, there is more power in the person who has their back turned to that. Let that other guy take all the shots they want. I'm going to be over here. I'm going to do what I do. And so early on, I think I was forgiving it, like the Cody in the chair thing. It's like, all right, you're new, you're young. It's like new, young, rebellious. Like we're going to, get people talking. I agree with you, Dresden. I didn't love it either. Again, I'm just like, just do you, brother. At that point, that was even before I think AEW that was just the first All Out or All In. I don't remember which one came first. So I agree. Focus on you, especially now though. And I've noticed they've done it a lot less on TV. Even early AEW like Dynamite episodes, they would throw some shots talking about ratings, talking about this. They would, and I was like, you don't need to. You have so much talent. Just do your damn thing. And you're so good at it. And that luckily, I think in the past year, they've really gotten away from that. Their core show still is Dynamite does not really do that, which is good, which I think is very good. I don't think that's a good or bad thing either way. Like the fact that Vince was trending, I get your point. I don't think he's going to do that again. Anytime there's a shift in the wrestling business, Vince McMahon's name is going to come up. You know what I mean? Because how is this going to affect the WWE business and their head honcho, Vince McMahon? So I think that's just always going to happen because anytime there's a big shift. So I don't think it's like oh God, people are just focusing on Vince. They're just making more attention. I don't agree with that. But I wholeheartedly agree, again, in classic format, don't throw shots at the other guy, especially now as you're really trying to grow and establish your business. Focus on what you do best and do it so much better than the other guys that people want to come and watch your show. So I 100% agree with you and appreciate you participating in our hot takes, Drez. Our next pro wrestling hot takes does come from one of our chatters. ReiBeatAll is there, one of our subs. That's his Twitch. On Twitter, he is Chill Dad. He writes into our pro wrestling hot takes message board. Just because the wrestling is humorous, sexual, ironic, over the top, doesn't make it bad. Especially in an indie promotion where the money isn't exactly there yet, where nobody should be breaking their bodies to get over, some of this stuff should be encouraged. Although certain wrestlers should definitely not be ever allowed to do certain things ever again. It's pro wrestling. We are all aware it is a work. Don't take it deadly serious, even when your promotion presents it as real life. Some stuff like invoking dead people's names for heel heat, bringing in politics, or in the case of hardcore matches promotions, don't get too physical. Embrace the silliness. I know these aren't exactly hot takes, but I felt the need to say it. Okay. This is just different factions of wrestling fans. And some people who think like comedy wrestling, right? And stuff that's silly, they hate it and they think that's bullcrap. They think wrestling should be all high spots or hard-hitting, strong style or hardcore action, right? I think what you're getting into here pretty much is simply just it's styles, it's flavors of ice cream, as somebody used to say. You know what I mean? Some people are just they're going to be all into GCW death matches, and they're going to think, what Eugene and that was problematic for different reasons, but characters like that or like Santino, they're going to think that's bullshit wrestling and that has no place in pro wrestling. Well, there's people who like classic wrestling like Johnny Saint or, Bret Hart, like these kind of purists, and think that deathmatch and hardcore wrestling is absolute bull and has no place in wrestling. But then they also might say that feel the same way about comedy. And there's people who love comedy wrestling and haha spots who think people are getting too serious. I think we have every single type of fan. I think it's what it comes down to. I do agree with, I mean, look, your passion is your passion. And if you want to, I see these guys getting slammed off of balconies, barely hitting a table, slamming on a concrete floor on indie shows. And I'm sure they're getting $100 or less for that. I would never ever do that. And I do not think it's worth it. I don't think anybody's health, potentially extremely life-threatening injury and stuff for some of that stuff is worth it. I don't think it's worth it at WrestleMania. Yeah, you know what I mean? I wouldn't do that spot at WrestleMania. They do crazy spots at WrestleMania because it's WWE and they have basically professional stunt people preparing a stunt area to do things like that for like Shane McMahon or whoever's doing it, right? Even at WrestleMania, I wouldn't just get like thrown off a balcony onto like one table on the concrete. I mean, if Vince is like, I will pay you $2 million to take this one bump. Maybe. I mean, money talks, baby. Money talks. But hot damn, a lot of this stuff, I agree with you. But that's some people's, as a fan, what they love. And it's some people's performers, what they love. But it's different. There are different flavors of ice cream for every fan. I think to me that this one's simply just what you prefer as a performer and a fan. Thank you again. JRayB03 here on Twitch. You can find him on Chill Dad on Twitter. Check him out. Thank you very much, though, for submitting your hot take. Our next one coming in. It's been a while since he's been in chat, but he is in the Discord. ReiBeatAll. He was very short and sweet. I kind of appreciated it. I'll even zoom in extra far. WWE is not a wrestling company interested in making wrestling better. WWE is a creatives corporation that wants to make the most money. So, I don't think Ray is wrong. I think I would change the little things. I would agree, WWE is not a wrestling company, first and foremost. Creatives corporation, I don't know what he means by that, but I will say that WWE is a TV company. They make a TV show. Wrestling is the world, professional wrestling is the world that TV show takes place in. But first, you saw it in Beyond the Mat. We make movies. That's what Vince said. It's what he's always believed. We make movies with characters and stories and through lines and ups and downs and all this stuff. The environment it takes place in, it just happens to be in the world of a wrestling ring. That's where the issues get settled. I will agree, yeah, WWE is they're not a wrestling company interested in making wrestling better. I think, no. I don't think they want to make it worse. I know a lot of people would probably argue with that. No, they're not out to like over pro wrestling. They're not. I think they just see it as more than pro wrestling, which might sound insulting to a purist fan. And trust me, as a young man especially, I was very much like a purist fan and had a little bit of like it's pro wrestling. They want it to be that in its core, but they want it to be more than that. And that's what they've always wanted. And that's why they have always tried to go a little bit more broad and family, right? Much to the chagrin of the older crowd and the more kind of purist, hardcore crowd, I know, much to the chagrin of them. But they want it to be more than just, that's why they do sometimes cringily, they push for things like Emmys, and they want to be seen in the sports awards, and they want to be a broad company seen all over. And it's like, yeah, but our core form of entertainment is wrestling. But what we do is not just a wrestling company. So like, I totally very much agree with Ray's take. I would just gotta say WWE is a TV company. Now, they're a publicly traded company. They're the only publicly traded pro wrestling related company in the world, I believe. I don't think there's anybody else who trades on the New York Stock Exchange that their core business is pro wrestling. So like, yeah, at the end of the day, from a purely technical standpoint, yes. Because as a publicly traded company, you have shareholders, so your job, literally, is to make the most profit for your shareholders. Overall, this one's short and sweet. Ray, I agree with you. I would just change it. WWE is a TV company, first and foremost. Thank you very much, Ray. I always appreciate you. All right, one last hot take. We got a long one here from Almighty Scorpion. Joe, one of our OG Drama Club members. This confused me when I first met him, but ladies and gentlemen, Almighty Scorpion is how he's known, I believe, in chat here. But if you want to find him on Twitter, it's Almighty Scorpion, because Scorpion was taken. So if you can see down here at the bottom here, if you want to find him on Twitter, leave out the O. But otherwise, that's good old Joe. So Joe writes, AEW and Impact Wrestling both get unfairly billed as promotions that take WWE cast-offs. The fact of the matter is that both companies are in the business of making money from professional wrestling. WWE has a vast talent pool of skilled and main event caliber talent that they acquired over the decades from headhunting, recruiting, talent acquired from contests, training talent from the ground up. If you look at the 2020 talent pool, there were well over 100 skilled wrestlers amongst all the brands. Raw, SmackDown, 205, NXT, NXT UK. Despite WWE releasing all of that talent, it is something that is good for the industry as a whole. Talent that were stuck in catering or felt they were subject to poor booking finally get a chance to do what they love, wrestle. It's easy to see 30 wrestlers get released over the span of a few months and see them go to AEW, Impact, Ring of Honor, etc., and say that they are just picking off WWE bones instead of developing their own stars. However, that's factually untrue. You can watch any promotion and see them grooming talent to be something much more than what they are at the moment. Bringing in more experienced people from a company that has more vast resources only helps get over the talent that you're creating. It brings those eyes to the public. We have CM Punk. Have you seen Darby Allin? It would be extremely foolish to see someone with vast experience, talent, and charisma become a free agent and not snatch them up. We have Adam Cole. Have you seen Jungle Boy? It's also disrespectful to the talent to say that you say that you love. By complaining that a company is signing a name, you're essentially saying Bryan Danielson is a free agent, he should work the indies. And if you're pissed off because a talent is no longer in WWE because they aren't in WWE, have you seen Drew McIntyre? First of all, Joe, very well thought out point here. This is very well written kind of piece. Honestly, I think Joe makes a really good point here. I think people do, they often say, and especially, I mean, this happens a lot in general, but a lot of these guys do get a little bit of like, oh God, they're signing more ex-WWE guys. They're ex-WWE guys. They keep doing it. They keep bringing in these people, blah, 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 blah. And especially in recent memory. You know what I mean? And because here's the thing. People would say that especially about like Impact back in the day, like 10, 12 years ago, right? Because they did. And they would bring in a lot of people from WWE. It was also because, I mean, a lot of people would go to WWE first, especially at that time, because they were the only game in town to make a good full-time living. You know what I mean? That was the only, 10, 15 years ago, WWE was it. I mean, Impact at the time, you could, depending on who you were, but I knew a lot of guys who did have Impact contracts that I met growing up, like who would wrestle on the indies too. Not everybody had a livable contract. They would get money from them, but then they'd still have to work indies and all this stuff too. So, I mean, 10, 15 years ago, WWE was the only game in town if you wanted to make a living. So, of course, everyone would throw their stuff there. They didn't get a shot there. Then they would, if they got released, they'd look for opportunity elsewhere and to make it all work. Now, it's not totally different. WWE is still the biggest game in town, but a company like AEW, which is providing full-time living, wages, and salaries, it's the first time that's happened since WCW. That there's another game in town that can provide someone with a good full-time living as a wrestling talent. So, but yeah, I agree. And I do like how he puts it. He goes, especially when you have these huge names who can offer a lot, who want to do something different, like your CM Punks, your Adam Coles, your Daniel Bryans. I like the way we have CM Punk. That brings more eyes to people who might know him. Check out Darby. He works with them. You know what I mean? We have Adam Cole. Have you seen? Like, it's an interesting way of putting it. Because here's the hard truth a little bit too. Your Darby Allins, your Jungle Boys, who are f***ing awesome. They still don't have the name recognition that someone like a Punk or a Bryan has, or even Cole, who got a lot of mainstream eyes and attention. There are people who don't just watch wrestling. There are people who watch CM Punk. And then when he's not wrestling, I don't really watch it. There are those people. And there's a lot of those people. So when he comes there and he works with these people, sometimes you go, oh, well, shoot, that Darby Allin guy is cool. Now, does that happen with every person? No. When Punk goes off TV, they turn it off again. Maybe. But it increases the exposure to these talents that are up and coming. And I don't think anybody has any doubt the future and the focus will ultimately be the Darby Allin, the Jungle Boy, whoever it is. And the talent coming in know that. The Daniel Bryans know that. The CM Punks know that. Even Adam Cole, who's still very much in his prime, I think he knows that. So overall, I very much agree with this. And this past year, 2 years, was a crazy time too. It's been so long since that many talent were released all at once. So like I've told you before, a lot of them, you're not going to see show up places right away. Not everybody's going to be, God, even AEW doesn't have unlimited money. They can't sign every single one of those awesome, awesome talent to full-time good contracts. So a lot of these talent might have to do, maybe they'll do a short-term contract in AEW, maybe a couple months in Impact, and they'll be doing indies. And maybe they'll go over to, once the borders open up, they'll do some Mexico, you'll see a lot more people traveling around the world, I think, and freelancing and not making a home base in like an AEW. It has been a long time, or I don't know if this might be the first time ever where somebody can make a living like that. I know people have done it on the indies, but to be able to be featured on TV shows, but not have to sign a contract and just kind of keep popping along is a very cool opportunity for a lot of people. Thank you, Joe, again for your take. Almighty Scorpion, or Scorpin, if you are on Instagram, or I don't know if he's on Instagram, but that's Twitter. So check him out.